This little light of mine
When
used
I
to
was 5 years
be too
old, I lived in
scared to
Pinckney, Michigan,
shine.
a very small
And
town with a
then
very
one
loud
day
history.
your
It
lips
was known for the
called me
KKK and for being deeply
Valentine.
unwelcoming to
I
people who
came
looked
to
like me,
find
though I didn't have
it
language for
won't
that yet.
shine so
All I
bright
knew
as the
was that I
whole
wanted to
world
be
smiling,
independent.
baby.
I begged my
The
parents to let me walk to
beautiful
the bus stop by myself.
feeling that
The morning
allows
they finally said
me to
yes, I was
be
so proud. I
whatever
got on the bus alone,
I
backpack
wanna
on, ready for
be.
school.
And
And the moment I stepped onto that
I'm
bus,
gonna
everything
be
changed. Every
free
student
and
shifted to the edge of their seat so I couldn't
easy.
sit down. They called me the N word.
This
They
little
called me
light of
monkey. They threw
mine
things at me.
used to
The
be
bus driver
too
acted like she
scared to
didn't see a thing.
shine.
So I spent
And
the first
when
ride to
one
school
met
swaying
your
up and down
lips
the
were
aisle crying.
Valentine. But
Not just because I was
tonight
hurt,
I came
but
to
because I was deeply
find I
confused.
wanna
I
shine
didn't understand
so bright
race.
it
I
makes the
didn't
whole
understand
world
hatred.
smile. And
I
baby,
hadn't said a word.
the beautiful
What I know now, what
feeling
my
that
5-year-old self
allows
couldn't articulate
me
is
to
this.
be
My presence alone
whatever
was powerful enough
I
to
wanna
disrupt the
be.
room.
And
That year, I was
I'm
assigned a seat
gonna
directly behind the
be
bus driver.
free and
No one sat next to me the entire
easy.
school year. Later, we moved to
This
Okemos,
little
Michigan.
light of
I was no longer
mine
the only Black child,
used to
maybe one
be
of five
too
or
scared
six.
to
But what I
shine.
experienced
And
next was more
when
subtle
one
and in
met
many ways
yours, it was
more damaging.
running high. But in
I was
time,
tracked into the
I
lowest
came
reading and
to
math groups.
find
I was seated in the
I wanna
back. My
shine
name was
so
spoken with a
bright it
different
makes the
tone.
whole world smile. And
Expectations were
baby,
quietly
the
lowered.
beautiful
And by first through
feeling
fifth
that
grade, I came to
allows
believe a story about
me to
myself.
be
School just isn't for
whatever
me. Maybe I'm
I
not that smart.
wanna be.
So I did what
And
many Black children do to survive
I'm
systems not built for
gonna
them. I
be
got quiet.
free
I
and
stayed small. I
easy.
tried not to disrupt until we
This
moved to
little
Washington,
light of
D.C. My
mine
father got his dream
used to
job, and
be
suddenly I
too
was surrounded
scared
by
to
students who looked
shine.
just like me.
And
And
when
for the first
one
time in
met
fifth
yours,
grade,
it
I
was
had a Black
running
teacher.
high.
Shout
But in
out to Mr.
time,
Lawrence
I
Beasley.
came to
Mr. Beasley,
find
quite
I
frankly,
wanna
changed my
shine
life.
so bright
Not
it
because
makes
he
the
was
whole world
motivating,
smile.
but
And
because he
baby,
was clear.
the
He had high
beautiful
expectations,
feeling
structure,
that
and deep care.
allows me to
One day, while
be
reviewing my grades, he said
whatever
casually, Shayna,
I
you're
wanna
a leader.
be.
And
And
I remember looking at him like he had
I'm
the wrong student.
gonna be
And I literally
free
said,
and
a leader? Me? I barely
easy.
talk. And he said
Free and
something I've carried ever since.
easy.
He said, I read what you
Free and
write and I watch how you treat people.
easy.
That's leadership.
Free and
And in that moment, my
easy.
definition of leadership cracked open. I thought leaders were the loudest. I thought they were the fastest,
This
the
little
smartest in the
light
room.
of mine
He taught me leadership
used to
was about
be too
consciousness,
scared
care,
to
and how you move through the
shine.
world.
And when
With his
mine
support,
met
I
yours, it
caught up
was running
academically.
high. But
And
in
from there,
time,
I
I
excelled.
came to
I'm talking
find
scholarships,
I
college, and for
wanna
the first
shine
time while
so
in
bright it
college,
makes the
like
whole world
probably many of
smile. And
you, I
baby,
learned how to think
the
and not just
beautiful
perform. I
feeling
took
that
classes like economics
allows
and
me to
sociology and African
be
American studies, and
whatever
they all helped me
I
connect the
wanna
dots.
be.
What I
And
experienced wasn't personal failure,
I'm
it
gonna
was
be
systemic design.
free and
That curiosity about people,
easy.
systems, and leadership never left me.
This little
I
light of
became an award-winning
mine
teacher, a school
used to
leader at
be too
25,
scared
led a
to
middle school in
shine.
Baltimore City to become the
And
highest
when
performing
mine
school at the
met
time,
yours, it was
99%
running
Black
high.
students
But
during a
in
period when
time,
Maryland
I
was number one
came to
state in
find
education in the
I
country.
wanna
We were
shine
killing it,
so bright
but
it makes the
I
whole
was
world
falling
smile. And
apart.
baby,
I was a
the beautiful
workaholic, I was burning out,
feeling
and I
that
was performing
allows
strength.
me to
I went on to
be
train school leaders
whatever
nationally. I got
I
married, I
wanna
had
be.
children, and
And
eventually I had to tell
I'm
myself the
gonna
truth. I
be
cannot be the leader
free
and
and
mother I want to be under these
easy.
conditions. So I stepped out on my
This
own.
little
I
light of
didn't necessarily plan
mine
on being an
used to
entrepreneur,
be
not in
too
the sense that I
scared
am
to
now.
shine.
I was simply
And
trying to
when
do what I
mine
loved
met
without
yours, it
disappearing
was
from my life.
running high. But
And
in
that
time,
became what is
I
now
came to
Lead for Liberation,
find
founded in
I wanna
2012.
shine
As I
so
coached
bright it makes the
principals,
whole world
nonprofit
smile.
leaders,
And baby,
executives, and entrepreneurs,
the
especially
beautiful
Black leaders, I
feeling
noticed a
that
pattern.
allows
They were
me to
brilliant. They were
be
getting results. They
whatever
were often the first
I
or the
wanna
only,
be.
and
And
they were
I
exhausted.
am
They were battling
gonna be
microaggressions, carrying
free
family and
and
community weight, being the strong
easy.
friend, upper limiting,
This
self-sabotaging
little
in invisible
light of
ways. What they
mine
needed wasn't
used to
another
be
strategy.
too scared
They needed capacity. They needed space to tend to their nervous systems, their identities, their inner lives. So 5 years ago, I created a container just for that. It started as Indigo Women, and during the pandemic, 10 cohorts of Black women gathered from across the country. Women slept, they left toxic relationships, started businesses, found joy, built lifelong friendships, came back home to themselves. And almost every woman called it life-changing. Then God whispered again, expand the space. I resisted. I said, it should come from a man. And God said, I said what I said. And so, of course, I obeyed, and I'm so glad that I did. And now we serve Black women and Black men, all leaders and entrepreneurs, through what is now called Indigo Unbound. Indigo Unbound exists because of the 5-year-old girl on that bus. Because I know what it feels like to have your presence misinterpreted, to survive systems that never saw you fully, to perform strength while quietly carrying pain. Indigo Unbound is the space I needed then, and the space so many leaders need right now. It's where inner work becomes the foundation for freedom, wealth, ease, and sustainable excellence. It's why we built the Freedom 4 method, not to grind for outcomes, but to attract them through alignment. Because when your nervous system is safe, when your identity is affirmed, when your leadership is conscious, your presence doesn't disrupt rooms anymore. It liberates them.
The beautiful feeling that allows me to be whatever I wanna be.